What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is David Greenspan, and well, again, welcome back to Season 4 of the Mindshare podcast. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep In Touch Systems and, of course, our friends over at the Buzz Conference. Now, if you are not already, make sure you hit up the Buzz Conference at the Buzz Conference on Instagram. Go over to thebuzzconference.com and get your tickets for Recharge 2022 coming up on March 31st, a live in-person event at the Mississauga Living Arts Center. It is going to be loaded. The lineup is amazing. It's going to be over 1,000 people there, trade show booths, speakers, you name it. You got to be there. So make sure you get your tickets. You can see if they're still available, but hopefully you got them already. And well, hey, we look forward to seeing you there. And when was the last time that you checked out the Kits Cross-Channel Marketing Suite? This is your full-on marketing tool set. It's got everything you need from CRM to websites to landing pages, action plans, newsletters, emails, social media. I mean, the list goes on. Everything under one umbrella in one place so that your costs stay down, your mind share goes up, your ROI goes up, and well, overall, you're doing a ton of business. So make sure you go over to my website, mindshare101.com, and click on marketing. Of course, as you know, we are on a push to get to 100 reviews. And so I'd like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes. Go over to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Again, ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101 and leave us a little review, big 5-star rating. Tell us how much you love the show. And of course, thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 172. A regular guest here on the Mindshare podcast. She is the Director of Business Growth for Remax LLC. She originally spent 14 years with Roy LePage in various positions, including a decade of residential sales experience, branch management, and working at a higher level in brokerage, professional development, and business services. Now she works closely with some of Remax's top brokers and owners to surpass their business goals and uses her extensive experience working within the industry, as well as leveraging her inherent ability to motivate and inspire through business planning and coaching practices. This week on the show, I am joined by Director of Business Growth for Remax LLC, Sandra Kirkland. Sandra, welcome back to the Mindshare podcast and a big happy birthday to you.
Oh, hey, thanks, David. It's been 2 days already. I totally forgot it was my birthday. I'm gearing up for St. Patrick's Day tomorrow.
You know what? I was prepping for that as well. And I was thinking to myself, like, is today St. Patty's Day? Should I have a green beer with me? But how were the birthday celebrations? Anything like totally exciting? I know we're getting 1 year younger from now on instead of 1 year older. So that's a good thing.
Yes. Yeah. My husband and I went to the gun range and spent a whole bunch of money on a bunch of ammo, and I shot guns. I've never even held a gun before. So this was a first for me, and it was a blast. I highly recommend promo here. I highly recommend Urban Tactical in Brantford. They were a fantastic range and it was a lot of fun. We'll go back for sure.
Nice. You know what? It's one of those things where like you go shooting and you blow off a whole bunch of ammo and you're like, oh my God, it's literally like just burning money. Yeah. Right? And like, what are you shooting at? You're like, nothing, but yeah, whatever, man.
We spent over $500 and it lasted half an hour, but it was well worth it. And I don't think I could have gone for any longer because they hurt. Like when you
shoulder, right?
The power hurts.
I know. Well, look, we could get into gun talk all day, but we got some bigger things to fry today. First off, just before we get into that, what are you hearing from agents about the market? I know a lot of people are hearing different mixed things. I think we're seeing the market taking a little bit of a breath right now. I'm talking to people east to west coast. I know you're talking to a lot of people. What's your take on things?
Yeah, like, in my job, I've got ears across the country and, obviously into other countries as well, being part of a multinational brand at a leadership level. So we're definitely seeing a lot of various feedbacks from different regions. I think that there's a lot of people that are noticing just a slight downward tick in the number of offers that listings are receiving. Some of them are noticing listings that aren't receiving any offers on offer day. So there seems to be a bit of a relaxation. I don't know if this is the beginning of a downward slide. I don't think that it is. Most of the world's best economists and Canada's best economists are still predicting that we're going to be in a seller's market for the foreseeable future, probably for another couple of years. None of us have crystal balls, so we don't know. We typically do normally see sort sort of towards that end of the spring market in March and April, a little bit of an easing off. So I don't want people to get too excited, but it is nice to be able to, in some cases, be able to feel like you're breathing a little bit more, have a little bit more flexibility and time to really make sure that your clients are making the right decisions. So, hopefully it keeps up, but I certainly hope that it isn't in the process of tanking. That's for sure.
You know what? I think I'm with you there. I think the market is taking a breath right now. I think that when we look at it and just call it what it is, right? We've got obviously an elephant in the room with the war going on overseas. We've got, Canada in the process of reopening. We've got March break, which is taking place. We've got gas prices, which are out of control. We got interest rates, which, although very slightly, are creeping upwards rather than downwards. And I think what that's doing is that's just lending to the thought processes of maybe the home buyers and the home sellers around where they're at this moment. And again, I think it is a breath. And I do believe that the next 14 days probably will tell us a lot about what's happening. I do not think whatsoever that we're like all of a sudden exploding and things are just going to start tanking. I don't think we're in that place. We haven't got enough inventory to be able to support something like that. So I think that there's, for anybody listening to that right now, my 2 cents to everybody would be, hey, breathe. The market is breathing. You breathe. Do not start throwing things at the wall, hoping something's going to stick. Don't go changing and making drastic changes just because the last few days have been quiet. Patience for the next few days. Anyhow, let's jump into this. You and I, this is like the 3rd time you've been on this show, and I thank you. You're the first person to be here 3 times, actually, because everybody else says no to me. No, I'm joking. I'm totally joking on that. No, you know what it is? We've made it like a regular thing of getting into these conversations where it's even just you and I doing it like in our own little like way of doing this stuff. But when we've gone public with it, like we have and are doing today, we get a lot of positive feedback from people. And I think that these are really helpful to the industry. And, we talk a lot about, the effort is there to make the industry better, but we talk a lot about ethics, professionalism, how people treat each other in this business. And we're talking like specifically realtors to realtors. So we definitely used a jarring title today about how realtors are single-handedly destroying the real estate industry. But again, so that everybody understands, and you and I both know that, but it's in an effort to actually bring some light to some stuff and help everybody really say, wait a sec, yeah, am I doing that? Can I help with that a little bit? How can I make this a better place? So I guess my first question to you, is real estate a professional business? I mean, let me say this a little differently, right? Are most agents in real estate professional, or is it the other way around? And if so, why? Like, where does this stem from?
That's a really deep question. And it's a really good way to, I think, kick off this session. I mean, and I'm going to answer this in a minute, but I want to preface this by saying anybody that knows who I am knows that I'm one of the biggest advocate for realtors and the real estate industry. Our value is inherent. Our value exists in every registrant, even if you think they are the most unprofessional and ethical person in the world, there is value that exists in that person. And I am the biggest advocate. The title for the session, well, it is a little bit jarring, and it certainly did get some questions of, what do you mean? Like that's not the right way. It's positioning and it's marketing. And we're going to talk a little bit about the value of positioning and marketing and, how people can misconstrue things and blow things out of proportion. So to answer your question, David, yes, every registrant is a professional in their own way. And the real estate industry in itself is professional and full of professionals. The vast majority of us, I think in every industry, everywhere in the world, every industry has its fair share of people that aren't in it for the right reasons, or, they're more concerned about their paycheck or some perceived, level of overbearing success over everybody else in their lives. And they've got some kind of personal agenda that exists in every industry. David, it exists in the coaching industry, the sales coaching industry. It exists in banking. It exists in doctors. It exists in it exists everywhere. But for the most part, I would venture to guess that a really strong majority in comparison to other industries of realtors around North America are inherent professionals, and I support every single one of them equally.
Okay, cool. I like that. And look, just to sort of back up the question and the positioning, I agree with you on that. And in fact, we talked to a lot of really amazing people who really do care on a regular basis. I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and we were talking about that sort of 1% versus the 99%. You could argue it's the 10% versus the 90%, or the 20 versus the 80, whatever. Everybody understands the analogy that I'm using there. The whole thing becomes, there is a group, and unfortunately a larger group, that maybe doesn't handle themselves exactly the way they should. And I think what happens is, between the, maybe banter back and forth between the two agents on either side of the deal, it starts to reflect and affect the clients that they're dealing with. So let me ask you the same question, but then say, what do you think the public thinks of the real estate industry and us as realtors?
I think that, I've been saying this for years, and I heard it from somebody else. So it's not like I came up with it. I heard it from somebody else that I don't remember who, but some level of incredibly successful and strong individual in the industry said, ask anyone in the world, any consumer in the world, what they think of the real estate industry. And they're going to say, oh, they're cheap. They don't know what they're doing. They make too much money. They're only in it for themselves. They care about their paycheck more than they care about you. And I need to continue that thought, but I'm going to pause there and say, why does anybody work? I mean, the vast majority of the people in the world work because they need a paycheck in order to live their lives. They're not necessarily working purely existentially because they really want to see the success of the HVAC company that they work for succeed. Like, you're doing it for a paycheck. So that's point number one. But additionally, if you ask that same consumer who has just said that the real estate industry is sleazy, what they think of their realtor, their specific realtor that recently helped them buy or sell a house, and chances are they're going to say, my realtor was amazing. My realtor was in it to help me. My realtor put me first. My realtor would jump in front of a bus for me. My realtor looked after my kids while we were moving, and my dog. My realtor was amazing. And I think that the same, again, could be said for a variety of industries. This isn't unique to real estate. But I think that it's really important to keep that in your mind, that you as a specific realtor are amazing. And it's okay as a result. I mean, it's not okay, but it's acceptable, or it's manageable for the consumer to think that the industry at large deserves to have the bar raised. I think the next question that we should be talking about, David, and I'm going to put it to you first,
Yep.
is, why does the consumer think that we are so inherently shady when complaints, stats like coming from RICO and coming from our boards and coming from AREA will tell you that it really is actually a minor, small percentage of agents that are nefarious? So why does the consumer have this perspective? Because I have a really, really good thought on why that is.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's because, and this probably does stem back to a conversation you and I believe it was you and I'm sure you and I have talked about this at some point, but I think what happens here is, when I'm sitting there talking with my client, and let's say you're the agent on the other side, and I get frustrated with you, and I start to essentially bitch and complain about you in front of my client, I set a bad tone to what's going on with the dealing. I set a bad tone to how the other agents are. I'm essentially taking out all my frustration, my venting in front of my client. And I think that causes a perception for the client about what the entirety of the industry is, because you're absolutely right. And you said it great. The client probably thinks I'm amazing, but they probably look at you and they don't even know you, and they're like, who's this person? And then they look at maybe the other 5 people that were dealt with, and they might even say the same thing. So this is not necessarily something that stems from, the way you deal with your client or the way I deal with my client. It's almost about the way I deal with the experiences that happen that I'm going through during the process, and I'm venting and sharing that stuff with them, which I shouldn't be doing.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that, I think, is the purpose of our session today, and the reason why we chose the header that we chose. And I think that, a key point of what you were just saying is that you may be frustrated with me and your client may be frustrated with me, but at the same time of all of this, I haven't done anything wrong. What I've done as the agent representing the other party is represent my party. And so I think that this issue is multifold, but I think that it really come down to 2 very important things. Is that, first of all, no 2 realtors are alike. No 2 clients are alike. No 2 transactions are alike. My job is to make sure that I am best representing my clients, even if that means doing something that you don't like or that you don't appreciate. The second key, so the first is mindset. And I think that,
big.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huge. And I think that that's first and foremost. And again, the point of what we're talking about today and why the title is the way it is. The second thing that I think that we could be doing better is having a much more firm understanding of the obligations at a bare minimum that realtors and registrants are bound by. And to really, really be more careful in deciding what it is we're going to get pissed off about and what it is we're going to rant about, either in a closed Facebook group or internet chat room or at the water cooler in our brokerage, or worst, in front of our clients or in front of the consumer.
Right.
We got to stop that. And because that, to me, I think is one of the, if not the biggest detriment to the real estate industry overall, is that we are purposefully drawing attention to the consumer about stuff that we're doing wrong when it's not actually wrong.
Okay, we talked about this, and this is kind of where some of this stemmed from, as well as that conversation around ethics, right? And that whole thing of like, I mean, are ethics a real thing in this business? And obviously, I'm being a little facetious when I say that. Naturally, they should be, and they are. But are people really thinking about them? And when we look at that, I might double down on that and say, like, the walls have ears. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, you talk to a lot of people, we all talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people hear a lot of things. Some things that maybe are versus aren't ethical, to bring some examples to that of, like, again, we were talking about something that we saw the other day, a certain thread, and we were like, well, why didn't this person just go talk to their broker, their manager? Why are we taking to a public Facebook group to start complaining about it? And again, the culmination of that too, and let's just go down that road for a second, was you got one person who's venting about something that probably they shouldn't even brought to the table. Okay. And whether they're right or wrong, that's not necessarily the thing. But then all of a sudden, all these other people start chiming in, and people are either for or against. And now you see the craziness, and I don't mean it in a bad way to anybody. I mean, it's just normal human nature, that the mindset of it starts to change, and you can see the emotions starting to come out from a lot of people. And I think that goes down an even deeper road around what's the long-term effect on the people's mindsets that are involved in the whole thing, and how does that affect the whole industry, right? So I guess let me sort of rewind a little bit and go, ethics, real? Should be focused? I mean, obviously it goes without saying.
And again, I mean, we're all different, and we all have different perspectives on what the right thing and the wrong thing to do is. And I think that a lot of people may struggle with, really putting themselves into the shoes of the other realtor and understanding that they may not have the whole story as to why that choice was made. And like, I'm not trying to say that realtors are perfect and that we're not, that we don't, that we don't do things incorrectly. I mean, there certainly is a lot of realtors out there that could do with a greater understanding of the law and have broken the law. I mean, we're dealing with the seller's market. So we're dealing with issues where sellers will accept an offer and the listing agent hasn't properly communicated that the offer date has changed, as an example. But, one of the ones that I'm seeing all the time is, just the like underpricing, for example. Let's talk about underpricing.
Okay. Yeah.
Realtors are angry at that. People are listing what they perceive to be under market value with the sole purpose of getting, $1 million over asking, and then being able to advertise, we sold for $1 million over asking. And they're frustrated by that. And the anger that I have seen be exuded by realtors over this strategy and over this marketing tactic, quite frankly, has at first had me like cringing, like that Britney Spears meme, and then second of all, really has me wanting to just, really shake my fists and really get angry about it. Because look, guys, at the end of the day, it's a marketing strategy, and you may find it unappealing, you may find it gross, but the consumer gets it. Like, how many Facebook posts have been shared with me from many of you guys watching this over the last little while, saying, look at this person who sold $1 million over asking, and they're advertising that they sold $1 million. So what? If you look at the comments in those posts, the consumers are like, yeah, I sold $1 million over asking, but every other property on the street sold for within $50,000 of that in the last 2 months. So big deal. Everybody sees through it. Marketing is marketing, and it is meant to bend and twist and somewhat manipulate in order to increase hype and in order to do what listing agents are supposed to do, which is get the highest price possible for their sellers and make their sellers feel really good about the success of their sale. And that's what it is. So you don't have to like it. Nobody has to like it. It's not unethical. It's not illegal. And it's okay to not like it, but to trash the real estate industry over it is literally what makes consumers go, well, if my agent thinks that it's terrible, then realtors should be prevented from doing this. And then you have to take that a step further. If we're preventing realtors from underlisting properties, what you're doing is preventing the seller from choosing the listing price that they want to choose when they're marketing their property. That's a slippery slope. Like, we're talking about some of the stuff that's happening in British Columbia right now with the excessive control that the province and the government is taking over what realtors and sellers and buyers can and can't do in their experience. And, you know, at the very end of the day, we know as a nation that we don't want to restrict the freedoms of the consumer to be able to do what they want when they're buying and selling property. So we have to be careful about traveling down those paths of what we want to stop agents from doing and what that actually means in terms of preventing the consumer from doing what they want to do.
Okay, marketing side. This is a conversation that's come up a few times before, and we know a lot of people complain about it, which I don't know. And I'd almost say to, based on what you just said, it's in fact, let it happen. But agents who go in with their smartphone and take photos that are not professionally done, they post them up, and that's how they're going to try to list the person's house. We see agents who are getting upset about it, publicly taking to it, looking at other agents and talking about it, looking at the client and saying, no, this place doesn't look good because of ABC. Realistically speaking, I guess you should almost embrace when you see another agents doing that, because you go, if that's the way they're going to market and I'm doing better, I'm going to win more. So why do we complain about these things? Why do we knock other people?
There's room for everybody to, I mean, sellers aren't stupid idiots. They're not 4-year-old children that don't know how to make a decision. If a seller wants to hire a realtor and doesn't give a crap about the photos that they're putting up on their property, that's up to the seller. And you're right, David, that gives you an opportunity to put a positive spin on that for yourself and your own business, to say, this is how I market my properties, and this is the value in this this additional level of marketing that you're going to be paying for in terms of what my fee is. It's not a bad thing. Like, sure, you know, internally you can go into your office sales meeting and go, man, looking at all these listings is just embarrassing. Why is it embarrassing? It's not your listing.
Yeah, well, there's the thing, right? You should be proud of what you do.
Yeah, it allows you to increase the delta over how amazing you are versus some of the other options that sellers could or could not have out there. Like, don't put a negative spin on it, because it just makes everybody else go, oh yeah, realtors are terrible. Well,
okay,
let them be terrible and you be awesome.
Yeah, well said. And another one that we hear a lot is, you know, people going out for showings and they're about to get there. They don't realize that maybe there's an offer that's already been submitted. Now they're debating whether they should go there, and they're getting upset that, you know, they haven't been informed about that. You can look at it from a whole bunch of different processes. Like, it's like, you ever had a meeting that, and I'm not going to ask you specifically, I'm just saying in general to everybody, you ever had a meeting that maybe you missed by accident or you're late by accident, or things do happen and it's not by accident, it's just that you couldn't control it. Like, things happen. Now, there's something to be said about the fact that if you're going to be late, should you pick up the phone and call or send somebody a message and let them know? I think it's like due diligence, it's prudence, right? But at the same time too, if you don't, it just shows your professionalism. It doesn't mean go start creating a war over it. So this is the same thing, back to what I said there about, you know, a showing that's already got an offer and somebody's on their way there, but all of a sudden they got to find out. Now they're getting pissed off of like, why are we taking that to the public?
For sure. Why are we taking that to the public is key. But, you know, Dave, I think that we need to acknowledge that we're not naive, and we're aware that there's a whole lot of laziness that happens in our industry.
Absolutely.
And I think that, you know, it's very legitimate why the frustrations within the industry have grown to the feverish pitch that they are. You know, we've been mostly locked at home for the last 2 years, still trying to do our jobs, and not as easy to do our jobs when we're faced with people who, you know, who are consistently late, or who didn't get to their broker bay on time to notify everybody that an offer had come in for whatever the reason, whether it's a legitimate reason and an actual mistake, or whether that agent was just lazy or didn't know what they were doing. We're not naive to think that there aren't some, you know, some really disappointing practices. But again, who I blame is a little bit the realtor, but who I blame even more, and, you know, my friends at Rico can tell you that I've been advocating for this for years, is that we need to be able to find a way to put more pressure and responsibility and liability onto the broker managers and the broker owners. And again, referencing what they're doing out in BC, they actually have an additional registration and education program that people have to take and pass and qualify for before they can become a manager of realtors. And I really wish that our real estate council here in Ontario was taking a little bit more attention onto the people that are responsible for these realtors. We've got realtors who give their buyers the lockbox codes and say, I'm going to be 20 minutes late. I'm stuck in traffic. Go into the house and I'll see you when I get there. Or who don't have an intention to show up at all. And I'll tell you, as a managing broker, I had a realtor in my office that did that. I was at work one afternoon. I got a phone call from another agent who was irate. Blame me. Who do you think you are? Your brokerage is terrible. You guys all suck. And, angry, vicious, swearing. Like, I won't even repeat the things that she had to say to me. And it took me 7 minutes even to get out of her what the problem was. Right. And then she said, I found out my sellers have a Ring doorbell. And I found out that the buyers had shown up without their agent. The agent had given them the lockbox code. And I went, oh my God, you know what? Like, I always put that out in communication. We talked about that at every sales meeting. I sent regular email newsletters out to my agents where I was reminding them of stuff like this. Mm-hmm. I called my agent and I said, you're aware that that's illegal, right? That you have to represent your buyers when they go into the property. And he honestly went, no, like they never taught us that in real estate education. No amount of me hammering it down my 120 agents throughout to my office was going to get that through to him because he missed those meetings. Right. So, we don't know what we don't know, and could have
great point there. Absolutely. Yeah.
But honestly, sometimes it can just be an honest mistake. And for this person to call this guy and rip his face off isn't going to change anything. But giving me an opportunity to sit down with him and go, here's why that's illegal, and have him go, holy, the thought never even crossed my mind. How do you stop people like that from coming into the business? You don't, because now that guy is an excellent realtor. He's learned a lot. He listens a lot. He's raised his level of integrity, and hopefully he's not getting crapped on for every tiny little mistake that he does while he's learning.
Look, I put that out in a post this morning, right? Like, before you get angry about something, why don't you dig in and find out why? I mean, look, I'll take this right out of our business and say you're driving down the street, somebody cuts you off, you're sitting there pissed off, you're honking and everything. How do you know they're not? I mean, maybe they're not, but how do you know they're not rushing to the hospital to go like somebody just got an act? Like, we don't know. Before freaking out, why don't we find out? Why don't
and on the other side, that person that called me screaming about my agent, it's quite possible that on her listing, she's had 7 other buyer agents not show up and send their buyers without them. So you're right.
Could have just been the 8th in the vent, right? That's it.
You never know what's happening. But again, I hope that she took all of her frustration out on me. And when she went back to her sellers, she was saying, I'm so sorry that this has occurred. I'm going to make my best efforts to ensure that your home is secure and that this doesn't happen again moving forwards. But what I'm afraid of is that she's sitting down with her sellers going, realtors are so shady. This is awful.
That's what we got to stop. That's why we're doing this, right? That's what has to stop. I mean, here, another one. I had an agent let me know that, he's got a dealing, he's got a listing, whatever. Other agent calls up and says, hey, I want to come show the property. What's the box code? He says, like, you got to go online. You got to do the registration because they want everything like registered properly. Right. And the other agent's like, no, just give me the code. And he was like, it's like, you got to follow the instructions. They're all on the listing. Just go follow the instructions. She started freaking out on him. And he go, but why do people feel they got that it's okay to do that? Why do people look, is this something where, the agent has a bigger social media following, that they're a higher producer, they're a top producer, they've hit this level that just makes it okay now to be able to treat other people the way, why does this happen? Where did people begin to think it's okay? And then what impact is that having on the longevity as well? I mean, I'll look straight up and say, hey, referrals come in all shapes and sizes. You don't know where, you don't know who, you don't know when. You treat people like that, not only is that person going to forget about you or remember you in a bad way, that's going to really sort of just multiply out there where more people are going to go, that person's not a good person to deal with.
Right. And whenever, I mean, I'm sure that there's a few, but I really feel like there's value in that sentiment of you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And, when, at least in our industry in recent years, has a massive mob picking up pitchforks and waving lit torches at the house of the rule maker ever really had an impact on anything. And when we entice this mob mentality by going on to Facebook groups and going into online forums and sitting, in bitch sessions in our brokerage and gone on and on about how terrible everybody is, when has that ever changed anything? And I think we talked about this in our last session, Dave, which has still been playing on my mind because there was so much good feedback from our last session, which helped birth this one, which was, what other industry do you see people that work in the industry sitting around like talking crap about their industry? Like, we did this huge, like, oh my God, there's cheaters in the Humber real estate exam. We're such a terrible industry. But, who's talking about the massive breach in security from the Canadian bar exam that occurred a couple of weeks ago? And I meant to send you over that link so you could talk about
Right.
it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they
yeah.
uncovered this massive ring of people selling the bar exam questions and answers to people that were about to sit their bar exam. And that happens, it happens everywhere. Like, people that are going for their doctorate to become pediatricians are cheating on their exams. And you don't see doctors sitting around going, oh my God, the doctor industry is so terrible. Everybody is awful. We're all unethical. Like, nobody talks about that when they're with their clients. And so as a result, that industry already appears more elevated when they're probably just as brutal in some cases as we are. Like,
well, they're people, right? They're
we have to
people.
stop killing our industry by talking about how terrible we are.
Well, here, okay, you brought it up for a second. Let's go there for a sec. Facebook groups, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, are these things a complete waste of time at this point in the sense where, like, the time that's being spent there to engage in those conversations, quite frankly, I don't know that it's helping anybody get better. It really is just a bitch session. And some of those groups can be a real mind blow. Let's put it lightly in that sense, right? And I mean that in a bad way. What's your thoughts on the idea of the Facebook groups? And I'm going to throw this other part in there because I seem to be doing that a lot today with like doubling down on these things. But should we all be walking away as an industry from Facebook right now as a communication tool? Would that help us in any way to kind of go, wait a second, I'm shutting that down. Any engagement I do have is going to be like purely client centric if I do anything at all?
I think that if you are prone to picking up pitchforks because somebody has put one in your hand and getting on the front line of those battles of going, yeah, this sucks, we should take them down, then I think that you need to leave Facebook groups. Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you have a strong enough EQ that you can objectively look at a situation and not want to nail somebody to the cross immediately, then there is inherent value in Facebook groups. Like the amount of learning that we do. I think every time in a Facebook group where somebody is talking about Form 801, again, for Ontario only realtors, somebody reading the thread is learning about how 801 is meant to be used and how offer management and offer communication is meant to occur. And that in itself is extremely valuable. That does, sorry to go off on a bit of a tangent.
No, go.
Actually give me something that I want to take this platform as an opportunity to share is that we are aware, being an admin of a couple of these real estate based Facebook groups, we are aware that there are groups of people that manipulate requests for referrals on these groups. You see a post where it's like, hey, I'm looking for an
agent. Who do we know here?
Yeah, in Ottawa or whatever. And then there's like a flurry of like comments of going, you should talk to this person. You should talk to this person. And what we often see tragically is that the person who's made the post originally ends up just sort of throwing the referral over to whoever it is that's tagged the most. And I really want to caution people from doing that because there are secret groups of people that charge other realtors for being in this group with the sole purpose of when they see a post, they talk about it in their little chat group. And then they've got 25 realtors that all descend on that post to name that one person who is paid to be there. And the horrible part about it is that nobody in that group has any idea if that agent is even worth their salt to be able to properly take care of that referral. So 2 points there. If you're going to Facebook to ask for somebody to refer a client to, please, make sure that the money that you're earning from that transaction is going to be worth it by taking some time to interview a bunch of people and ensure a good fit for the person that you're giving over to them. And second of all, don't just take somebody who's been tagged the most as being in any way worth their salt as a realtor, because
you've got to go and do the research on that.
It's shady.
I don't think that
is a bit shady.
Yeah, just because of the popularity contest, I don't think that wins it. And I have heard from agents who do sit there going, like, I'm just not the guy that gets tagged all the time, but I'm the right guy for that's my neighborhood. And you could ask that person about the schools, the shops, the transit, the this, the that. They'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
And they're
when
like,
in reality, there's somebody that did 2 deals last year, nowhere near that area, who's just paid $500 to be in this tagging group, and they're not worth it. Just be careful that you're not referring to those people.
Okay. So here, negative brings negative. And when we talk about negative and a topic that is near and dear to my heart, just because I think that we as an industry, we as a society pick one day a year to talk about it because it's been overly publicized on that one day in January. But let's talk mental health for a quick second here in terms of like, what is that sort of like, that impact, that effect on people's minds? Like if I'm sitting there going, I didn't win the popularity contest. I didn't get the referral. I'm sitting there going, hey, I put something out there and I thought it was just an okay question or an okay comment. And all of a sudden I got the pitchforks. We're not thinking about the impact on mental health here on people. And I think everybody really needs to pay attention to that, because you know what? People will not talk about their own mental health. People will sit with it. People will burn with it. People will die with it because they didn't want to talk about it. And talking about it is not easy. But we've also got to think to ourselves that when we're on the other side of it, when we're the keyboard tough guy typing away, thinking, hey, I can do this. You know what? If you were in person, you'd probably get knocked out for saying that. And forgive me, I'm a hockey guy. So, maybe I'm thinking like on the ice kind of thing. But think about it. We're mean to each other. For what? For what? So the person's not as good as you think they are. Go be better.
Or they didn't do what you expected them to do.
Just go be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
To what you just can't. I mean, we don't talk about this stuff. But look, is this a technology problem? Is it a societal problem? Is it an education problem? Is it something else? Like, why does this happen?
And again, I think a lot of it is that mob mentality. A lot of it is that we've been cooped up for the last couple of years. A lot of it is, just the increase in the prevalence of the internet and how easy it is to just say something, off the hip that you may not necessarily actually mean just because it's on your phone and it's there and you go, yeah, and you throw something in and you're dogpiling on top of it. Just to close off that referral discussion too, I'm hosting a panel at the Buzz Conference on March 31st with 3 excellent realtors who have developed a very strong and reliable and legitimate method of increasing realtor to realtor communities using online communities like Facebook groups. So for those of you that are coming to Buzz, please join us. We've got Andrew Perry, Jeff Margolis, and Nita Bolak, who are going to be talking about the success that they have legitimately built for their businesses without having to pay into referral groups. So that's going to be a great session.
Love that. Definitely going to be a powerful session. And I hope everybody here is going to be joining us at the conference. So let's talk long-term impact for a second. Like, what if we just said, screw it? This is the Wild West. I'm here to make my money, kind of as we stated before. This is a commission business. I really don't care if you don't like what I had to say. I really don't care about your rules. I'm going to do what I got to do for my client. I'm going to do what I got to do for my pocket and screw everybody. Like, what if we just went down that road? I mean, you're probably not getting a lot of referrals from people, but like...
Well, we should, but I think that's what we need to talk about more. Like, I think we actually need to say, you do you, boo. Like, you're out there looking after your business. You're out there looking after your client. I don't like what you did, and I don't agree with the decision that you made. I think that you're gross for, advertising that you sold over asking when you underpriced it by $300,000. Fine, you can think that, but let's not go out and point it out to the consumer all the time. It's interesting. Like, there's an argument, and I know a number of people, whose opinions I value, say, how are we going to fix it if we don't draw attention to it? And my personal opinion is that we can be drawing attention to it, but we need to do it in the right channels. And, going out on Facebook groups or venting to our consumers or, public outcry of like, realtors are horrible is not the right way to raise that bar. You see something that's unethical, first determine, is it actually unethical, or is it just a strategy or a tactic that you don't agree with?
Okay, and hold on. Sorry. Let's wrap this there. Okay, let's do that. How do we help each other? Because I like what you're doing there, but I want to bullet point because I want people to take notes on this. And I'm serious. We've thrown a lot at this in the past, like 30, 40 minutes right now. Okay. And there's got to be a takeaway here for everybody. So we go, look, guys, we came out with this jarring topic today. We did this very much on purpose so we get your attention. We've gotten your attention. You are here. You're not the only one listening. There's a lot of people listening, and this thing's going to go big and wide on Friday when it gets syndicated. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of people tuning in. We collectively, and I know everybody does here, wants to have that like takeaway. Okay. So what I was going to ask you there was overall impact. Okay. How do we raise that level of professionalism? Totally sorry for totally cutting you off, but I think it lines it up well so everybody can grab their pen and start to take some notes here. How do we ensure that realtors do not destroy our own industry? How do we ensure that we take what we learned today and we make ourselves look better in front of the public, in front of our colleagues, in front of the person we're looking at in the mirror?
And those are, that's what we'd mentioned at the very beginning. For me, those are the 2 takeaways: is mindset. You can take anything that has frustrated you right now and turn it into something positive, even if it means, a learning for yourself of saying, I'll never do that. I'll never take a cell phone photo of my listing. there's always a productive and positive way that you can look at any frustrating situation. And then the second, again, in my opinion, is to really have a firm understanding of the law and of the obligations and the requirements of realtors. Dave, you said it yourself, this is an entrepreneurial industry, which means business owners have the capability and flexibility to run their business however they darn well want. And the consumer has every freedom and capability to hire whoever they darn well want. And if people don't make a decision that you think is the right decision, that's on you. That's not on anybody else. And you expressing that you're disappointed in that isn't going to make them change how they do their business, because they're inherently different from you. Understand what they've done is illegal or not. If it's not illegal, forget about it. Forget about it. Because they're able to run their business how they want, even if you don't like how they do it. And deal with it. Make sure that your client is okay and not experiencing the stress that you're bleeding on them by being frustrated at whatever that realtor has chosen.
Okay, there it is right there. So two things I'm going to add on to. One, talk to your broker manager. If you're questioning anything, and I know that we've kind of said like we should have a little bit more stringency around like the broker manager education, but go talk to somebody. Go ask somebody in a closed communication, hey, is this legit? What do you think of this? What, how does this work? What can we do about this? Go and talk it out before you just air it out to the whole world, because sometimes you airing it out to people may actually have people looking at you as the person that did wrong. That's one thing I'm going to add on. The second thing I'm going to add on, and you used this word a second ago, experience. Okay. Remember this, the client experience is important. It's crucial to the next steps in terms of what are they going to walk away with? Are you going to get a referral business? Are you going to get repeat business? What are they going to say when you are not around after the fact? And the one thing that we want them to remember is that it was overall a positive experience. See, because oftentimes we may not specifically remember that one little thing that you said, or that one little thing that happened, or that one person that pissed us off. What we remember is that we just didn't enjoy the experience. And it's what we remember that's then going to be what we tell other people, which is then going to add up to whether you do or don't get more business, period. On top of the fact that if we continue to sort of knock it down, and we've been asked this question many times over the years, how do realtors remain relevant? You remain relevant by being a people person. And that means all people involved, not just your one person.
Yeah. And being different from everybody else around you, being different from every other realtor that you're working with. And the fact that we are different will make us, as soon as we become exactly the same and do things by the book and as expected, is the first day that we're able to automate this entire industry, and then bye-bye agents. Like we need to be different, and we need to be able to make various decisions about how we operate our business and how we treat our clients, because we are people, and we are humans, and we are different. Rick just said it great here in the private chat here, Dave, where he said respect other realtors in the business and always be constructive. You don't have to like what everybody else is doing, but your job, in my opinion, your number one job in representing your client and representing the consumer at large is to ensure that their experience in working with a registrant, as far as you're able to control, is pleasant and stress-free. So if another registrant has caused some kind of stress that your client may or may not be facing, find a way to be the buffer and absorb all of it, and don't give any of it to your client. They're going to come away feeling like it was such a great stress-free experience that they had with you. And their feedback to all of their peers and friends are going to be, realtors are great. My realtor was awesome. There was no stress. That's what I mean. Like, it just seems like a no-brainer to me.
It totally does.
Like it's so easy to get addicted to drama. Like that's why Big Brother is such a big thing, and Survivor, and Real Housewives. That's why they are famous. That's why people take to internet chat groups, because they want to watch the drama. But as professionals, if we're going to be professionals, then we need to make sure that this isn't an episode of Big Brother. That it is a proper profession where, again, we are absorbing the stress so that our clients don't see it.
Isn't this where cancel culture came from? And I'll leave that as like a thing and just kind of go, we definitely don't want to be canceled. Final question here as we sort of wrap this up and just look ahead here for, Q2 is we're embarking on Q2. We've had a powerful conversation today about, how we deal with each other, professionalism, ethics, and how not to keep sort of attacking each other, but instead lift each other up in different ways. What should everybody be looking ahead to in terms of, just, of course, building positive mind share and just having a successful spring market? Some final words there.
Two things. The first thing is that there's two quotes that I live by in my life and in my business. And the first one is, you can't expect to know everything all the time. And the minute that you stop listening and learning is the minute that you're destined for mediocrity. And I'm embarrassed to say that the person that said that was Donald Trump. However, back when he believed that, it was a really valuable quote, and it still rings true with me today. And the second thing is that you can never, ever, ever hope to control the actions of others, but you can control how you react to it. And so, work on having a positive mindset. And then the third thing that I want to end with, which is a perfect segue, is that I'm actually doing a second session at the Buzz Conference on March 31st. And it is in the benevolent realtor. And of course, the definition of benevolence is selfless kindness to those around you. And we're going to be interviewing Katie Steinfeld, Corey Harding, and Spencer Baker, all who have had significant growth in their business and a sense of personal reward professionally because of the kindness that they've exuded in their businesses and their activities in volunteering in their community and within the industry. So those two sessions, you're not going to want to miss.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'm going to throw in a third one there, and that's going to be mine at 2:45 in Hammerson or RBC Theater, pardon me. So anyways, you guys, everybody check the agenda for that conference. Sandra, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If anybody's got questions, wants to follow up with you on anything, and I would encourage everybody not to overwhelm her, but I would say that reach out to her. She is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this industry, when it comes to the things that can be, that are right, that are wrong. Where can people find you?
Anywhere. Google me. Google Sandra Kirkland, and I'm anywhere. Facebook is always great. Instagram DM is always a quick way of getting to me. LinkedIn, skirkland@remax.ca is my email address. I'm an open door, and please go ahead and flood me with your requests for conversation about anything. I'm always open.
She really is. And you were absolutely amazing. I thank you for making all the time to be here today again. We will definitely be doing this again because we know how important of a topic is. I want to thank everybody who joined us live today. For those that are watching the replay, thank you as well. And Sandra, just a big, big, big thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everybody. See you again for the fourth time.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You were either watching us live, you were listening to this recording on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, any one of the major podcast platforms. Maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a 90-day social media content calendar in there, absolutely loaded with tips and tricks, and all in an effort to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. Also, if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, connect with my team, mindshare101.com/coaching info. My team will set up a strategy call between you and I. We will talk about what you're looking to achieve and, well, how we will help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on. All you have to do right now at any moment, but please go over to www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Give us a nice little review, some big 5 stars. Tell us how much you love the show. But on a serious note, we'd be incredibly grateful. And of course, if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to take a moment to once again thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Be sure to visit their website, www.thebuzzconference.com. Stay in touch with all of the awesome events they're always hosting. Definitely be downloading the latest copy of the Buzz Digital Magazine. Make sure you get your tickets for Recharge 2022 if there's any left, because this thing is going to be packed. And of course, follow them on Instagram at the Buzz Conference. And finally, I want to thank Kits Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked us out yet, just go to my website and click on marketing. That's mindshare101.com and click on marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.